Okay. Good evening, everyone. We'll start. First of all, I need to wish you a happy new year to you all. So this is the first research methodology subject for 2025. So we'll start with the new lesson. Right. Let me share the screen. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. So far, what we have discussed. So what are the things we have discussed in 2024? Yes. What did we discuss? No idea. So we started with the problems, research problems. So then research problems and then is that all? Research problems, research questions, then research objectives. We identify the research objectives. What else? Yes. What are the other concepts that we studied? Hmm? Yes. No idea. So then we discuss about the literature review, how to develop the literature, and then we identify the conceptualization and the operationalization, how you can develop your conceptual framework, how you can identify the hypotheses, so how you can take the support of literature review to develop the conceptual framework and hypotheses. So these are the things that we are already there. We all have discussed, right? So when it's come to the lessons, we are in chapter number 3. Chapter number 3 is the methodology chapter. Chapter 3, it's a methodology chapter. So in the research dissertation chapter number 1, it includes the research questions, research problems, research areas, background of the studies, etc. So then literature review, it includes the two perspectives, empirical literature review and the theoretical literature review, right? So what are the similar findings to my research, which will be declared through the literature review? So that is the second chapter of your research. Third one. What is the third one? Chapter number 3, it's regarding the methodology chapter. So then, what are the things we are declaring in the methodology chapter? Yes, methodology. Especially when it's come to the development of conceptual framework and the hypothesis. Some of the researchers are including this conceptual framework and the hypothesis to the literature review chapter, whereas some are including it to the chapter number 3, methodology. The way, methodology in the sense, the way how you design your study. Right, so methodology chapter will show the readers the way how this respective research is going to do a research. What are the things we are including into the methodology chapter? What are the things? Yes. What are the things? Research, sample, ne? Sample, population, sampling strategy, unit of analysis, and then sometime it may be the data analysis techniques, research philosophies. So those are the sum of concepts which are declared in the methodology chapter. Initially, the basic idea from the methodology regarding the methodology chapter is how this researcher is going to do this research will be shown through the methodology chapter, chapter number 3. Now we are going to start the chapter number 3, the methodology. Methodology. Right. Okay. Learning outcomes. So what we are going to do here now, so we need to identify the research onion, right? A basic idea or else the basic framework to develop your methodology chapter. It identifies what are the components you need to include and what are the components you need to avoid. Elements of the research design. What do you mean by a research design? So then time horizon, quantitative studies for the quantitative study. So what if you are using the quantitative study? If you are using the qualitative study, so what may be your research design? Last thing is we are going to start with the unit of analysis. Find what do you mean by the unit of analysis? Right. So research onion, what do you mean by onion? Yes? Girls may have the idea regarding onion. So they are the persons who deal with the kitchen activities and other things. No? If it is an onion, so what are the basic characteristics? It has layers. If it is an onion, it has layers. Ne? So then, how you can, yes, if you are coming to the, so same as in the research methodology, research onion, it also having the layers, right? How many layers? Yes, how many layers? We have 5 layers, right? Research Onion is founded by the Saunders 2027. He is the person who developed this one, Research Onion, Saunders, right? Saunders. So then he developed this Research Onion 2007, which is a base, which is a guide, which is guided to the research methodology chapter. Research Onion explain us so what are the things you need to include to the research methodology, right? At least if you are developing a research methodology chapter, you need to include these 5 areas, these basic 5 areas. Otherwise, your methodology chapter is incomplete. Methodology chapter is incomplete if you are unable to include at least these 5 components. 5 components. So what is the first layer? The first layer, it's what? The research philosophy. You need to start with the research philosophy. When you are going to, for the kitchen activities, how you can use the onion. You have to step by step remove the layers. So then we are starting with the, here the research philosophy, the first layer, right? So the second layer, what is the second layer? Research approach, right? Research approach. Once you identify your research philosophy, the second thing, so based on your philosophy, you will be able to identify the research approach. What my approach? Definitely, research approach will be determined after you identify the research philosophy. What kind of a philosophy? Based on the philosophy, your approach may be changed. Okay, now you selected the research approach. We have two approaches, deductive and the inductive. Deductive and the inductive. The next one, research strategy. Now already you have selected your approach. What kind of approach I'm going to use for my research? Based on the approach, the next task is develop the research strategy. Develop the research strategy, right? So there are 6 strategies, right? 6 strategies. Experimental research are there, survey research are there, Then action research are there, ethnographies are there, case studies are there, grounded theories are there. Likewise, there are six research strategies. So out of that six strategies, you can select a one strategy based on your approach. The second one approach, based on the second one, you may be having the chance to select the research strategy, right? So next layer, what it is? Yes, choices, right? So then next one, time horizon. What kind of a period, right? What kind of a period that I'm going to refer, that I'm going to use for my research? Is that only 2 months period? Is it only for 5 years period? Definitely it will be detected through the time horizon, right? Next one. Once you identify all these things, you can identify the research technique, right? Research technique and the procedures. That means identifying your population, identifying your sample technique, and then sample strategies, data analysis techniques, and likewise techniques. So what are the techniques? Is it a regression analysis? Is it a panel regression analysis? If it is a regression analysis, is it a panel regression analysis? Likewise, is it a fact analysis? You have to identify what kind of a strategy that I am supposed to use for my research. Definitely addressed by the last layer, the techniques and procedures. So these are the sum of layers. When you are developing your methodology chapter, you have to start, if it is three, and normally we are taking the methodology chapter as the 3. So then 3.1, introduction to the chapter. 3.2, definitely it should be research philosophy. 3.3, research approach. 3.4, strategy. 3.5, choice. 3.7, time horizon. The last one, techniques and procedures. For the research, it is 3.7. 3.7. Okay. The first layer, research philosophy, right? We already identified the research philosophy in the first lesson. We discuss it, right? So, what are the two type of philosophies? Yes, we already identified the concept, the research philosophy. It has been included in the first lesson also. We identified the methodology, epistemology, ontology, and then we identify the research philosophy. What do you mean by philosophy? Yes, it identifies the basic belief that guided the design and execution of a research study. And different research philosophies offer a different way of understanding in scientific research. Right? So when we are identifying the research philosophy, we identify two: positivism and the interpretivism. Right? So these are two decades. So these are referring to decades. The positivism. What do you mean by positivism? Yes? Any idea having the positivism? Yes, tell me. Positivism. What it is? Yes? Positivism. No idea. Positivism. In the first lesson, we discussed three: positivism, interpretivism, and constructivism. Yes?
One single objective reality.
One single objective reality. Good. Very good. What else?
One truth. Truth in one way.
Okay, one truth in one way. Good. Yes. Yes. Research philosophy, in the sense, it's a set of belief. Then the set of beliefs. That means how do, as a researcher, how you can define your research, right? So your belief. So the initiation is it coming up the research philosophy. What kind of a philosophy? If it is a positivism, in the sense, what the positivism thing. So the single one truth is happening in the same way. And the single reality is there. All the things may be happen because of the based on the predetermined way. There are no, the natural environment is not impacting. All the things are happening according to the predetermined way, positivism. So then interpretivism, what do you mean by the interpretivism? Yes, the natural environment is key to the interpretivism. And the philosophy, together with the acknowledgement of scientists, cannot avoid the affecting those phenomena they study. Right? All the things are happening according to their own perspective, and all of the researchers can weave the something according to their own perspective. There is a truth. Positivism, there is the truth. Right? So there is a difference. Positivism researchers, initially the research philosophy started with the positivism. So then they have initiated, okay, all the things are happened according to predetermined way. So then in the initiation of research, so the researchers identified that, okay, all the things are happening according to the way predetermined way. So there, one person to the another person, there is no any difference. But later on, what happened? They identified that that is not the actually happening thing. Based on the individual mindsets, based on the perceptions, what happened? The things can be described according to the person perspective view. At person to person, what happened? The things are different. The thing, for example, uh, regarding this lecture, the way how I can, or is the way that I'm observing your research lecture is different from your perspective, right? Based on your participation, there are some. Exactly. There are 56 students. So anyway, the actual count is more than 75 or more than 100. Approximately, as I remember, 107. So then, so my perspective regarding this class is totally different from your perspective. So what it is, that means interpretation. Person to person, the thing, the description, the value, the belief may be differ, right? Individuals describe something regarding something based on their own perspective. So that means there is a truth, right? The person to person truth may be differ, right? Interpretivism. So then the positivism, there is the truth, right? Even my perceptions as well as your perception is similar. No any changes. So if it is no any changes, definitely, so what you can do is you can quantify the relationship between the lectures, the relationship between two variables with the numbers. Why? The natural environment is not impacting. Individuals' belief are not impacting in the positivism area. So therefore, definitely, very easily you can go to the, very easily you can collect the data regarding this dependent, whatever the variable. So then the next step is you can collect the data, you rationalize it, you put it into software and you come up with some results. Positive relationship, negative relationship, no relationship, likewise. What it is? Positivism. Why we can apply the positivism? We assume that all the things are happening according to predetermined way, as well as the no any changes to the person to person, to the process to process, to the step to step, the process, the truth is not going to be changed. Positivism. So likewise, what we need to initially select the philosophy, research philosophy. It's very much important, research philosophy. Right. The next one. So, positivism. Right? Most of the researchers who are engaged with the quantitative research, they apply the positivism research. Whereas the persons who are conducting, the researchers who are initiating the research with the qualitative approach, they starting with the interpretivism. They're starting with the interpretivism. Why? The reason is to have and to do a qualitative research, you need views, you need perceptions, you need values, right, of the individuals. That means if you are observing a perception from one to another, what happened? Your perception is differ from the another one perspective, perception. So what then? You can, that means you are going to collect a different perspective. Same person, sorry, different persons say the same truth in different views. What it is? It's a qualitative research. Therefore, as a researcher who initiated this, your research with that kind of set of beliefs, definitely the researcher is referring the interpretivism research philosophy. But if you identify that, okay, no any changes, all the things are happening according to the predetermined way, but we need to identify what kind of relationship there is, what kind of impact there is. So what you can do is you can conduct the quantitative research. Quantitative research, definitely we are dealing with the numbers in the quantitative research. So since all of you are having the same perspective regarding some scenario, we are going to have data and quantify it, and we are going to explain what is the relationship, right? Same relationship. Why all of them are thinking about it as a same method. No any changes based on the perspective person to person. The respective relationship is not going to be defined. It's a positivism. So therefore, if we are referring the quantitative research, most probably our research philosophy may be positivism. If we are referring to the qualitative research, yeah, research philosophy is the interpretivism. Interpretivism. Research approaches. Approaches. The way how you can start it. The way how you can do it. So then, which is determined by the research approach. So there are two approaches. There are two approaches. The first one is inductive approach. The second one is deductive approach. Deductive reasoning and the inductive reasoning. Right? Deductive and the inductive. So what do you mean by the deductive? Deductive.
Using analytical techniques.
Using analytical techniques. Very good. We use analytical techniques. Especially, yes, we are specially using the analytical techniques. What else? What else? How you initiate the deductive approach?
ඩිඩෙක්ටිව් අප්‍රෝච් කියන්නේ මේ ගැන තියෙන රිසර්ච් එකක් හරි තියෙන මේ ප්‍රොබ්ලම් එකක් ඒක අපි ආයෙත් මේක හරිද කියලා රිසර්ච් කරන එකක් වගේ යන එකද මැඩම් ඩිටෙක්ටිව් කියන්නේ. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ
Oh,
තියෙන රිසර්ච් එකක් ඒකට ඒක අපි අරන් ඒකට හයිපොතෙසිස් එකක් හදලා ඒක අපි අපේ ඔබ්සර්වේෂන් එකට අනුව අපි ඒක පිළිගන්නවද නැද්ද කියන එකනේ වගේ නේද යන්නේ ඒක.
oh, අපි prove කරන්න ඕනේ. අපි prove කරනවා මේක මෙහෙම කෙනෙක් කියලා තියෙනවා. අපි කලින් identify කරගෙන තියෙනවා මේක මේ විදිහට සිද්ධ වෙලා තියෙනවා කියන අපි data collect කරලා අපි hypothesis create කරලා අපි මොකද කරන්නේ? We are going to prove it whether it is same result or else a different result, which is identified as a deductive approach. Clear? Very good. So we have the existing theory. Theory says something. Theory says there is a positive relationship with x and y. So then you need to prove it. How you can prove it? So first thing is you need to develop the hypothesis. Hypothesis says how you can develop the hypothesis. Last week we identified the way how you can develop the hypothesis based on your literature review. You have to identify the literature review, you need to read. So then based on the previous findings, you are developing the hypothesis, okay? 10 articles shows that there is a positive relationship based on that empirical results. In my research also, I'm developing the hypothesis 1 with the positive relationship. But likewise, you need to formulate the hypothesis. Why? What we are going to show is whether there is a relationship between this x and y as per the theory. So then, once you formulate the hypothesis, you are going to collect the data. Definitely, it's a numerical data. So then, with the statistical software, whatever the EV use, SPSS, R, Smart PLS, likewise, with the software, you should analyze it sometime. If it is a small project, you have the chance to analyze your data via the Excel sheet. Excel also a very good analytical software. If you have come up with the research project in the third year, second semester, those who have intention to exit from the general degree, so they have the option to go to the research project. So then in the research project, we are not asking you to do a huge analysis. You can do the analysis via the Excel, Microsoft Excel. So therefore, likewise, we have the statistical software. After they collected the data, you can put all the data into the statistical software and you give the command to the statistical software. Okay, run this statistical technique. So then, based on your results, you can predict whether your findings, whether your research hypothesis is in line with the previous findings or else no. Right? So likewise, you can confirm whether there is a positive relationship between x and y at the end of the data analysis. Right? That is called as the deductive. Exactly, we have discussed that one in the first lecture. Right. Inductive, the other way around. Inductive in the sense, we are not normally dealing with the numbers. We are first identify the specific observation. Right? Mohammed coming to the class, first day late. Second day also late. Then Prakash, first day late. Then second day late. Third day late. What happened? I identified always Prakash come to lectures in between 3 to 3:30. The pattern is there. First observation and the pattern recognition. So then once you identify the pattern recognition, so then you can come to a general conclusion. Prakash always, it's a simple example, hypothetical example, Prakash is always late. Right? Not only my classes, but also other lectures also, he is normally 30 minutes late to the class. So that means what my general conclusion, the Prakash is not work on time. Right? Prakash is not work on time. Why? He always, I identify the pattern. He is always late for the other lectures. Specific observation is my class. The first day class, 30 minutes late, and second day also the 30 minutes late. So then I can identify the pattern recognitions. So meanwhile, I'm first check my lecture behaviors as with the other lectures. We are normally doing it. So then we can identify the patterns. So then general conclusion is Prakash is not work on time. If it is a sample, if it is a sample wise, I can come to the conclusion is 16A weekend MOH batch is Prakash is representing the 16A and 16A MOH batch. So then as a batch, so they are not working on time. Just a hypothetical example. I know they are very good students. They work on time, but the hypothetical example to the inductive approach is the Prakash example. Right, okay. So I hope the reference is clear to you. If you are dealing with the qualitative research, you are ending or you are starting with the inductive approach with the research philosophy, interpretivism. That interpretivism. If you are dealing with the quantitative research, right, you are starting your research with a set of assumptions as per the positivism. As per the positivism, right? Okay. The next one. Research design. Design. What do you mean by a design? Yes. Research design. It's not strategy. It's the overall strategy. Right? Overall strategy for answering your research question using the empirical data. How you can achieve your research objective, or else how you can answer for your research question with the empirical data. This process, or else the way how you are going to do it, is identified as the research design. Create the research design means making the decision about, right? So decision about, the first one is your overall research objective, right? So how you can find the answer for your research objective? Definitely linked to the research design, right? So whether you all rely on the primary research or a secondary research, are you using primary data or secondary data, right? It's what? It's your research design. What is your sample method? Are you used to going to probability sampling techniques, non-probability sampling technique? If it is a probability sampling technique, so what is your data analysis technique? What is the sampling technique? Whether it is a simple strategy, simple random, and then stratified random sampling technique, systematic sampling technique, likewise. So you need to identify the sampling method. So then sampling method includes again what is your unit of analysis, and then what is your sample size, what is your population. You need to identify those things. That is regarding the sample. So then data collection method. Are you going to share a Google form, or else are you going to share a hard copy with your respondents? Or else how you are going to collect the data? Are you going to interview them? Right? Whether it is a structured interview, unstructured interview, right? The way how the researcher is going to collect the data, right? Data collection method in the sense, the way how you are going to collect the data. Are you going to use the interviews? So then questionnaires, If it is a questionnaire, is it a Google form or is it a hard copy? Data collection method. How the researcher is going to collect the data linked with the research design. Procedures you will follow to collect the data. How you can initiate the research data collection procedure. If it is, for example, if it is an interview, right? If it is an interview, so you are going to do a research on the financial literacy of the Uva province. the special reference to the SMEs in Uva province. So then, how you can collect the data? Can you just go to the SMEs in Uva province and ask them the question, ask the question from them? No. If it is so, what happened? What ගහලා පන්නයි. If you are going to inquire about their financial literacy, even they don't know what you mean by the financial literacy. So there is a process, right? So you go to the SME first, and then you are going to kindly explain them what you mean by the financial literacy and so who you are. So then, okay, so this is the concepts. Now we are going to inquire from you. Are you aware of these factors? And likewise, you need to first explain them. Before moving to the explanation, you need to select the proper area also, Uva province. So then there is a process. You need to follow some steps. Otherwise, if you go there and ask the question, okay, tell me likewise, tell me the answer for this one. What is your name? If you ask that kind of a question in that flow, what happened? They are not going to give you the answer, right? So some of the research strategy, research strategy, if there are some sentiment questions, if there are some sentiment concepts you need to inquire, you can't just ask the question. Then if you ask the question like this, it's like this: what is your name? It's a direct question. What is your name? It's a direct question. My name is Isuri. Right? So, but there are some questions, or there are some research who are going to which is highly concerned on the values, belief, and other things. You can't develop the direct questions. Why? If you ask that kind of, if you ask this kind of a question, what do you think about the SAP campus? Okay, I will ask that question. Okay. Who are the respondents? 58 students. No. Atapattu. Atapattu always attending for the lectures. Very good student. I don't know whether you are there or else. No, anyway, I can see your profile picture. Atapattu. He joined here, but not actively participating, no? Anyway. Atapattu. Atapattu. Devmini. One left. Two left. Right. Okay, if I'm going to ask the question, what happened? You are going to leave from the session. I don't mind it anyway. So, if I ask that kind of a question, what happened? What do you think about the SAP campus? As a lecturer, if I ask that question from you, are you giving me the proper answers? No. Right? So the relationship is lecturer-student relationship. Within that lecturer-student relationship, so there are some barriers. So therefore, you are not going to give the proper answer to me. But if I'm having a proper strategy, right? So I should have the ability to get that answer from you without having a direct question. Okay. First, as a lecturer, I need to create a proper relationship with you. So, hi, likewise, I have to maintain it. So then, once I maintain a proper relationship with you, so then you will be able to explain what you define, how you can feel about the SAP campus. Otherwise, I come to the classes and if I ask that question, you are not giving the answers for me. So likewise, if you are living or if you are doing a research with the belief, with the perceptions, you have to very much concern on the flow of that data collection procedure, right? So you need to deter. The thing is, if you are going to collect the second data, you don't need to consider the perception. You got the annual report, the collected the data, no issues. But if you are going to do an interview, there is a flow of interview, right? There is a flow. You have to familiar with them. So then ask then introduction about yourself. Likewise, you need to identify, you need to properly plan the flow of the data collection procedure. So then data, once you collected the data analysis, once you collected the data, the next one is how I can develop the data analysis technique, or else how I can analyze this data. If it is a quantitative analysis, so there are a lot of research analysis techniques. The simple analysis techniques that you know is descriptive analysis. Descriptive analysis in the sense, what do you mean by the descriptive analysis? You analyze the data set. You are going to analyze the data set. I hope you have the idea regarding descriptive analysis and the inferential statistics. Sorry, descriptive statistics and the inferential statistics. What do you mean by the descriptive statistics? What are the descriptive statistics? Yes, what are the descriptive statistics? Yes, descriptive statistics. You all are good at mathematics. Yes, descriptive statistics. Yes, descriptive statistics. What those are?
Mean, median,
Very good. Mean, median, mode, neither. Range, standard deviation, variance. So what those are? Descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics in the sense, descriptive statistics explain the data set. It describes the data sets. So my data set is like this. Inferential statistics. Yes, Kavini. Yes. Inferential statistics. Prakash. At least even I lectured to, I don't know your name also. Okay. Any other one, inferential statistics? කලින් උගන්න පින්ද යන්තම් එනම් ටිකවත් දන්නවා එහෙම නැත්නම්
hypothesis testing
sorry
regression
පුතේ ප්‍රකාශ්
yeah prakash මේ
yes
hypothesis testing එකයි regression
very good hypothesis testing what else
regression analysis
very good regression analysis
HRMS
yes regression analysis okay regression analysis so there may be a lot of regression analysis name canal regression is there whole regression is there multiple regression is there linear regression is there likewise there are a lot of regression analysis techniques mediate analysis techniques so likewise the factors identification of factor analysis also there right so there are a lot of inferential statistics techniques so then If you are dealing with the secondary data, it is very easy to develop a research analysis technique. But if it is a primary data, right? So again, you have some of the analysis techniques. We are calling them it as a thematic analysis. So then content analysis is there. The narrative analysis are there. Likewise, we have some data analysis techniques based on the primary data, as well as the secondary data, quantitative research as well as the qualitative research. You need to, before initiate those things, you have to plan it. But you have to plan it. Okay, this is my objective. With inline my objective, I'm going to collect the primary data. Right? To obtain this primary data, this is the population. So this is my sample. Right? So this is my number of sample. This is my sampling strategy. The way how I'm going to collect the data from the population based on the simple random sampling. Right? To collect that data from the sample, I have to use the survey. I have to use the experiment, data collection method. If I'm using a if I'm using the simple random sampling technique, now how I can start it? Am I going to share a questionnaire based on a simple random sampling technique? The procedure. So then, after you collected the data, you need to analyze it. You are not waiting until the collection of data. Before moving to the collection of data, in the chapter number 3, under the research design, you need to identify what kind of data analysis techniques will be used to analyze this primary or secondary data. Methodology chapter, it's must. Otherwise, what happens? You don't have a proper idea regarding data analysis method, but you collected the data. What happened? Your data reflecting something else, but you can't analyze it once you are coming to the research analysis. The thing is, research objectives. Research objective, as I remember, I gave you that task in the last week. So you have to identify the question as the first row. If you are developing a table, if you can put into the table, the first column research objective, and then research, what is it? Research objective and the way how you can achieve that objective. Data analysis method. You need to predetermine the objective and the objective regarding the objective. What is the data analysis techniques? Objective wise, you need to identify your data analysis technique at the chapter number 3 methodology. Otherwise, you will be failing when you're analyzing the data, your data. You collected the data, but those are not relevant. But sometimes those data can't be analyzed. Right? Your objective is regarding the time series, regarding the identification of pattern, but you have collected the point data, cross-sectional data. So what happened? Your objectives are not matched with the data analysis method. Therefore, the research design, right? Design identified overall strategy for answering your research question. So that is why here I have started with research questions or objectives, the same as once we have the questions, we are going to convert it to the objectives. So then we are ending with the data analysis method. You need to link those two. Objective wise, how I can objective my data analysis, how I can fulfill my research objective with the data analysis method. So this is the flow, right? So therefore, we are identifying all of these things under the research design. Research design in the sense designing your objectives, objective relevant analysis methods, the data that you are going to collect, data type, sampling, data collection methods, and the procedure to follow to collect the data, right? So we are calling it as your design, your research design. So that is why we have developed the chapter number 3. Chapter number 4, it is regarding the data analysis and the results. Results in the sense you have already collected the data and you do the analysis, and so these are my findings will be shown through chapter number 4, results and discussion. Before moving to that chapter, you need to properly your research design. Or else the chapter number 3, it's the methodology, right? Now we'll identify the elements. The basic elements in the research design. Yes, research strategy. What are the research strategies? So then, extended of researchers' interference, study setting, contrived and then uncontrived. So then, unit of analysis, very much important, really important. If you can't identify the unit of analysis properly, definitely you are in a trouble. And then time horizon, we see a one shot or as the cross-sectional or as a longitudinal. So then what are the data analysis methods? Then measurements, already we discussed that one, measurements, and then the sample and the data collection methods, sampling and the data collection methods. Those are the parts of the research design. That means hereinafter we are going to discuss your research design. What are the things you need to include to the research design as well as the chapter number 3, the methodology. Okay. The first one, under the research design, you need to design it. Okay? So then how you can start it? You already identified the philosophies and the approaches. Now, based on the approaches, now you are going to select the strategy, right? Strategy is what? Strategy is a plan for achieving a certain goal. I hope you all have the idea regarding mission, vision, and likewise. Which concept is broader? Vision, no mission. Yes, which concept is a broader one? Vision, no mission.
Vision.
Vision, very good. Vision is the broader concept. Ne? Companion at the entirely, we are designing the research vision. Sorry, we are designing the vision for the company. So then, mission based on the research, based on the vision, we are developing the mission. So then, what is the next step? Developing the vision, mission, and then what is the next one? Yes. What is the next one?
Objectives.
Objectives. Then
Goals.
goals. Next. What else? Is that
ඒකට
all?
මේ ඉංග්‍රීසි වලින් කියන එක නම් දන්නේ අර මෙහෙවර ප්‍රකාශය කියලා එකක් තියෙනවනේ මිස්.
එහෙවර ප්‍රකාශය කියන කියන්නේ විෂන් එකට නේද?
නෑ මිස්. විෂන් එකයි මිෂන් එකයි අරුණාන් පස්සේ තව එකක් තියෙනවා අර මෙහෙවර ප්‍රකාශය කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ සමාජයට මොකක්ද දෙන්නේ කියන එක ගැන යාලා.
සමාජයට දෙන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා.
ඔව් ඒක මේ ඉංග්‍රීසි මේක නම් හරියටම මතක නෑ මිස්.
සමහර හැම කම්පැනි එකම අපිට මෙහෙවර ප්‍රකාශය. අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඒකට ඉන්ක්ලූඩ් කරන්නේ විෂන් ඒකත් එක්කෙන concept එක අපි society එකට මොකද්ද කරන්න කියන එක නේ environmental perspective වගේ කතා කරන එකනේ. හරි. Good. We have sometimes goal, objectives and then targets also, no? The next one is target. As I remember, according to my management knowledge, we are identifying the vision, mission, objectives, goals, and based on the goals, sometimes we have been allocated the targets, right? Okay. So then, what do you mean by a strategy? Strategy in the sense, the way or else the plan. We are making a plan to achieve a goal. To achieve a certain goal, we should have a plan. In your life also, what are the plans? What are the new plans for the 2025? Anyway, do you have plans? අලුත් අවුරුද්ද පොතක් අරගෙන ලිව්වද මම මේක කරනවා මේ අවුරුද්දට මේක කරනවා කියලා ලියාගත්තද? No. Have you planned? No. In the 2025, I completed my degree. So you are in third year, first semester. If you want, you can complete it. Third year, within the as a general degree, 3-2. I completed my degree. So then I'm going to start the CA exams with the exemptions in the new syllabus. We are going to change the syllabus from 2025 after the midterm, July after July exams. So then I'm doing the new syllabus chartered and the chartered exams. So then December, November, I'm going to marry it. Right? So what those are? So those may be your plans. Right? So then to achieve that plan, what you can do? You should have a strategy. Right? If you want to complete the degree programs, you have to pass all the exams. At least you should have a C pass. So then if you have repeat subjects, what you can do? From now onwards, you can apply for the repeats or repeaters, whatever the medicals. If you wait until at the end of the second semester or at the end of the year, what happened? You will definitely lose the marks for the 3-2 subject plus 3-2 subject for the 3-2 subject plus all the medical or repeat also. That means you are in trouble. So therefore, as a strategy, if you want to go with the general degree, meanwhile, if you have the repeats medicals, what you can do is from the now onwards, apply for the medical exam as well as repeat exams. What is it? It's a strategy. That is how you can score the marks. In this time also, we have the lot of cases. So the students are wait until the last moment. So therefore, what happened? 3-2 results plus the medical repeat subjects. Again, medicals repeat also going to be repeat. Why? So they don't have the proper plan. They have the plan. What is the plan? To complete the degree program. Sorry. So then they don't have the strategy. And if you want to marry, right? So you have to find the partner, suitable partner. It's a strategy. Your goal is to marry. So then you have to properly plan it. So then likewise, you may have some goals. So therefore, you have to use the strategies. Likewise, in the research also, if you have the research objectives, so your objective is to identify the level of, so hypothetical example, you are going to do a research in the AI, in the area of AI, right? AI implementation or as AI practices and the environmental performance in the Latin commercial banks in Sri Lanka. The first objective may be to identify the level of application of the AI techniques. Before moving to the identification of the relationship between AI and the environmental performance, you need to identify as a first research objective. So to a certain extent, they need to apply or else they need to implement that AI technology. So first you need to identify what is that level. Right? Is that medium or is they fully implemented the AI techniques and likewise or is halfly implemented? So that means that is your first objective, to identify the level of AI implementation in the licensed commercial banks in Sri Lanka. So these are hypothetical examples. So then second objective may be to identify the relationship between the AI implementation and the environmental performance in the licensed commercial banks in Sri Lanka. So those are what? Those are objectives. So you should have the idea how I am going to identify this objective. If it is the level of adaptation or is level of implementation, how I can identify the level of implementation? To identify the level of implementation, can I use the secondary data? Can I use the primary data? Likewise, right? To identify the relationship, how I can confirm whether there is a relationship? Am I going with the experiment? Am I going with the survey? Or else is it action? Likewise, you have to design your strategy, right? The choice for the particular research strategy will therefore depend on the research objective and the type of research question. It's must, right? Strategy. So then, for example, if you want to identify the level of implementation, can you do the experiment in the banks? Right? Can you do an experiment? No, you can't do the experiment. Right? Can you do action research? No. Right? Can you do ethnography? No. So those are some of the strategies. We'll identify the next slide. So what are the strategies? What are the research strategies? So there are 6 strategies. Right? The first one is experiments. Experiments. What do you mean by an experiment? Experiment. පුංචි කාලේම experiments තියනවද ඔයාලට? Why not? No? You should have the experiments. Yes, experiments. What do you mean by experiments? Yes. What is the purpose? Is to identify or study causal relationship between variables. Experimental designs are less useful for the appropriate for answering explanative and the descriptive research questions. Right? So experiment in the sense, in normally, if I don't know whether you all coming from the commerce stream or are there any students from the other streams also. Science students, they are highly doing the experiments. නේද? අර ගෙම්බ එක කපනවා. නේද? ඊට පස්සේ ගෙම්බ හුස්ම ගන්න විදිය බලනවා. ආයි මීයක් කපනවා. නේද? ආයි එයාලගේ එක එක තියෙන්නේ. එයාලා මොනවද කරන්නේ හැමදෙස්සම experiments. So they are doing the experiments normally if it is a biological. So then bio people, so they are doing the doctors and other, I don't know whether it is familiar with the nurse or whatever the thing, whatever the field, doctors, so they are doing the experiment. So with animals. So then physicians and likewise, so they are doing the always as the graph also as here, you can see here. So they are mixing some components. So the H1 කියයිනේ H0 කියයි. අර අපි හහා හැහැ හිහි ලිසි ලුසි බෝල ගන්නවා කියලා වල ඉගෙනගෙන ඇතිනේ. මොකද අපි ඒකට කියන්නේ? ආවර්තතාවකුවක් අපි ඉගෙනගෙන තියෙනවානේ. ඒ වගේ යාළගේ තියෙනවා මොනවද? එක එක අම්ල ජාති තියෙනවා පෙරොක්සයිඩ් කියයි. ඒවා මොකද ඒගොල්ලෝ කරන්නේ? So they are going to mix those things and do the experiments. So what they are going to do is there any causal relationship between variables? Right? So then in the experiment, the researchers manipulate the independent variable to the study of the effect of the manipulation of the dependent variable. Right? So you are going to change the combination. Right? Change the combination. You put the first H0 and then you are going to observe the behavior. So again, then what happened? You are going to change the H0 into another variable and you are going to observe the pattern. අපි පොඩි කාලේ මොකද කරන්නේ? අර දෙකම තනකොළ තියෙන තැන නේද? අපිට එක්ස්පෙරිමන්ට් එකක් කරන්න ඕන නම් පුංචි කාලේ 5 වසරේදී 6 වසරේදී කරපු පළවෙනි එක්ස්පෙරිමන්ට් එක මොකද්ද? sunlight and the මොකක්ද අනිත් එක? අපි තනකොළ ටිකක් වහලා බලනවා, එයා දීලා බලනවා නේද? ඇයි වෙනස් වෙන්නේ කියන එක. So what those are? So those are manipulations. Manipulations. We are going to manipulate the natural environment. The things which are in the natural environment. So then, based on the manipulation of one variable, one independent variable, especially in the experiments, we are manipulating the independent variables. Independent variable. Right? So then what we are observing is there any change? Is there any manipulation in the dependent variable? So our perspective is to study the effect of this manipulation on the dependent variable. Right? The best example is either we are doing the experiment on grass. We are giving the air, we are giving the lights, and then we are giving the water, and we are going to check how these grass are green. Right? So if we are going to remove the lights, the sunlight, so what happened? So they are in the grass is in the yellow color. So then whereas the other two scenarios, if we are providing the water and the air properly, so they are green. So what we are going to observe is the changes in these grass. So therefore, so it's called as experiment. So can we apply as the management discipline students, can we apply the experiments to our research? Yes, we are not always visible in applied research context where the researchers try to solve a management problem. For the management perspective, we are not going to do these experiments. For example, if you want to identify the customer satisfaction and the customer satisfaction and let's take purchasing behavior. ඔයා කස්ටමර්ට ගිහිල්ලා නිකන් හයියෙන් බැනලා ඒ වගේ දෙයක් කරලා අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් එහෙම purchasing behavior එකේ changes බලන්න යනවද නැහැ. So therefore, most probably the scientific or science persons, so they are using this experiment in their researches. That I hope the idea is clear to you, the experiments. Survey. Survey. What do you mean by a survey? Right? Survey is the best strategy. To collect the management research data, survey is the best strategy. I hope you all face the surveys. Recently, we observed the survey data, the presidential election. So, what happened? So, we vote to President, the Andrew Kumar Disanayaka, Ranil Wickremesinghe, Mr. Andrew Kumar Disanayaka, and then Mr. Ajit Premdasa, we vote for them. What it is? Actually, it's a survey of Sri Lankan people. So how they what is their perception? What is their choice? It's a best example. So then what do you mean by a survey? Yes, it's a system for collecting information from or about people to describe, compare, explain their knowledge, attitudes, and the behavior. In research also, we can conduct the surveys. Most probably, we can conduct the surveys through the Google Forms, as well as we have the chance to do the surveys via the interviews also. We can observe. What we are doing is we are collecting the information. Right? We are collecting the information from individuals or else about individuals, about peoples. Why we are doing this? Why we are doing this surveys? Why we are collecting the data? Our perspective is based on the data, we are going to describe some relationship. We are going to describe sometimes the same individuals. We are going to describe some concept, right? So regarding the corporate governance, the Prakash idea is like this. Then the Kavya or whatever, I can't remember her name. Roshan, Roshan perspective regarding the corporate governance. Prakash, Animesh. So those things maybe differ. So how did I collect the data? Sometime it may be an interview. Sometime I share the Google form with them and have the idea, right? So what is my perspective to compare or else to describe, to explain the others' idea, others' attitudes to the readers. So therefore, survey is the form or as the format where you can collect the information about or from the individuals to describe their attitudes or else whatever the relationship. Right. So very popular in where? In the business research. Why? It allowed the researchers to collect the quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative data in the sense we can collect the primary data as well as the secondary data in the where we are normally using for the management research, quantitative and primary data and the secondary data. So then the survey is the best method to collect the primary plus the secondary data, right? Secondary data. So last week I explained you how you can develop the questionnaire with the 5-point Likert scale. So then once you create the question with the 5-point Likert scale, so definitely you have the chance or you have the access to share your questions via the Google Forms or else via the hard copies. It is really a search, right? It is really a survey, right? A good searching method, survey, right? Okay. Here I have given some examples. Consumer decision making. You have the chance to conduct the survey to observe the consumer decision making. Customer satisfaction. If you want to observe the customer satisfaction, if you are you all are working in somewhere else, you are in third year, first semester. So therefore, if your bosses want to identify your job satisfaction, so they have the chance to share the Google Forms. In our context, we are sharing the Google Form with you. How do you feel about the research methodology subject? Is that good in the online system? Likewise, how the best method to collect the ideas, to collect the data is a survey. Survey, right. Okay. As I explained you previously, here you can identify survey, right? Survey can be conducted via the structured interview as well as the questionnaires. Survey can be conducted through the questionnaires as well as the structured interview. Structured interviews, there are some unstructured interviews also. We'll discuss in the next lesson what do you mean by the structured interview and what do you mean by the unstructured interview. So then, if it is a structured interview, the basic qualification to identify it as a structured interview, you should have a proper guidance. You should have a proper flow to conduct a structured interview, right? So then there are two types of structured interviews, face-to-face and telephone interviews, right? Face-to-face and the telephone interview. What do you mean by face-to-face? You all face the interviews, then when you are going to the industry, definitely you had the interviews. Face-to-face interviews, it may be group interviews as well as the individual interviews. Sometimes group of individuals, group of panel may review you, or sometimes one individual, one reviewer review yourself by asking the question. So then sometimes there may be telephone conversation. Via the telephone conversations, some of the organization conducted the interviews, telephone interviews. So those are some of examples for the structured interview. So we have the chance to develop the questionnaire and conduct the survey. It's a questionnaire also a form of the survey, completion questionnaire. Normally now in nowadays we are know all of the students, all of the researchers, so they are collecting the data. If it is a questionnaire, so they are sharing the Google form. Google form. So by giving the option, by giving the option all compulsory question, and we have the chance to mark the question as a compulsory question. So then the respondents need to definitely answer for the question. Otherwise, they can't move. So that is the best strategy to avoid the incomplete questionnaires. Incomplete question. You can avoid that kind of. We have some strategies. By using them, that strategies, you have the chance to avoid that incompletion in the Google forms also. Google questionnaires. So then, so in nowadays, when we are conducting our research, actually we went to the industry, and when we had the physical papers, and we are going to sit in part of the banks, and we observe the data actually, right? So we go to the industry, and then we have the hard copy, we explain who we are, and we collected the data. That is how we collected the data. Very hard, but very interesting. Anyway, nowadays you have the chance to share the Google questionnaires or Google forms. So those are the survey, right? Those are the survey. Anyway, anyone who asks you to fill the questionnaire at physical places, don't hesitate to fill those things. Why? So they are getting actually they are getting a really effort to develop or else to come that point. So therefore, as advice, if someone asks you to fill the physical questionnaire, hard copy, don't hesitate to fill it, right? Okay. So those are the two methods of survey, questionnaires and the interviews, right? Ethnography. What do you mean by ethnography? Yes, the photo is similar to. කවුරු වගේද? Yes, any idea? ඔයාලා lecture එකේ කවුරු වගේද මේ? Yes, no idea නේ. කවුරුත් වගේ නෙමෙයි. Good. Okay. So ethnography. What do you mean by ethnography? Yes, ethnography. Okay. You find what you mean by ethnography. I write it down. You find what you mean by ethnography and write it down. I will ask from you. Okay. What do you mean by ethnography? Ethnography? Yes. The image shows us a person who is carefully look at something. Okay? Person who is carefully look at something, especially look at something with the very specially. So then what do you mean by the ethnography? It's a very good strategy used in a qualitative research, right? Qualitative research use the ethnography research strategy, right? So what do you mean by the ethnography? The researcher closely observe the, when he's observing, he records and engage, right? Observe and record, meanwhile they engage in a daily life of another culture and then write accounts of this culture, emphasizing the descriptive details, right? So what those descriptive details? What do you mean by the descriptive details? As a researcher, as a qualitative researcher, you go to the industry and so observe and then record, meanwhile engage and writing down some habits. Habits, their customs, so there are differences. You observe those differences, you observe those habits, their values very carefully. You observe first. So then you record item to item, you record it, and so then you are finally what you are going to, you are going to conclude it. Example, right? Normally what kind of scenarios we are using this ethnography to observe the subcultures. When the researchers are observing the subcultures, you can use the ethnography. Why? Subculture means it's a separate culture, right? It's not a main culture. So if you want to observe a subculture, you have to go to that place. An example, if you want to identify the best example, right? The Professor Nandala Ratnasekara. So he wrote the book called The Beggar in Sri Lanka. That's a famous example. So the beggar in Sri Lanka, right? How the professor developed this project, or else how the professor developed this book. He became a beggar. He became a beggar for several months, street beggar, right? He acted as a beggar, street beggar for several months. He go to that place and he observed their patterns. He discussed with them. He acted as a beggar. By acting as a beggar, he observed their daily habits, their patterns, their customs, their differences, their values. Once he observes, then he recorded it. By recording it, after several months, becoming the street beggar, he wrote the book. The book name is The Beggar in Sri Lanka. Right? The Beggar in Sri Lanka. The best example. That means if you want to, the beggar in the sense, the beggars, street beggars in the sense, they have the separate culture. They have the separate culture. Can you ask, if you want to observe their life behaviors, can you ask the question from them? Can you ask the question from them? You go to PETA and you are going to ask the question from them. What happens? So you can't, if you want to observe the subculture data, you can't directly go to the place, you can't directly go to that place and can't identify their values and beliefs. You have to act as the respective person. Otherwise, you can't get the real figures. Because why? Some of the beggars, so they are actually street beggars. But some of the beggars, so they acting as the beggars. They're acting as the beggars. The harassments that they are facing, the opportunities that they are facing. If you ask the question regarding those things, so they are never sending you, they are never explaining their real experiences. But once you become a real beggar, street beggar, definitely you can observe the data. Ethnography. We are calling that technique as a ethnography. You are going to have the conversations and asking the questions. Yeah, beggar කෙනෙක් වුණාට පස්සේ අහනවා මේ අද කීයක් හම්බුණාද? නිකන් ගිහින් නැත්තම් ගිහිල්ලා පෙටාවලට ගිහිල්ලා අද කීයක් හම්බුණාද කියලා ඇහුවා beggar කෙනෙක්ගෙන් ඇහුවොත් එහෙනම් මොකද වෙන්නේ? වටේ ඉන්න මිනිස්සුත් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා අපිටත් ගහනවා. හැබැයි ඔය if you act as a beggar ඒ විදියට ඇඳගෙන නේද? පෙටාවලට ගිහින් අද කීයක් හම්බුණාද කියලා ඇහුවොත් එහෙනම් මොකද කරන්නේ? අද නම් ඉච්චර සරු නැහැ. ඊයේ වගේ හම්බුන්නේ නැහැ. කියලා මොකද කරන්නේ? So they are explaining you their real life experiences. So they are that accordingly we identify the ethnography, right? So if the researcher want to identify the subcultures, right? Subcultures. So the researcher can closely observe, records, and engage the daily life of that culture and account for it. We are calling it as a ethnography. Again, if you want to identify the beggars, street beggars' lifestyles, if you share the questionnaires them, are they going to fill it? No, say they are not going to fill it. Sometimes so even they had the money with their strategical mindsets, but they don't have the financial literacy. So therefore, you have to actually go to that place. Drug users. Neither. Drug users. If there are some students who are using the fortunately, there are no students, but the hypothetical example, if I want to do a research on the smokers in the SAP campus, so what happened? I can't do it. So I can do it since I know you, so I can't collect the data from you. But if some of the first years don't know about myself, so then what I can do is I can friendly with them and collect the data. So ethnography, hiddenly you are going to observe the data in subculture acting as a part of that subculture, right? You are going to hiddenly collect the data by acting as a part of that subculture. It's called as the ethnography. Most probably not quantitative researchers, but qualitative researchers. This is the best strategy. Ethnography, right? Okay, so then case studies. Okay, we'll discuss case studies, grounded theory and action research after having a 15 minutes break. Okay, so it's already 4:48. So you can come at 5.
Madam, can you upload the material to the LMS?
Okay, I will surely upload. After the lecture, I will upload.
Okay.
එමවල් physical ගෙන්නවම මම lecture notes බලනවා ඇවිල්ලා. lecture notes බලලා ඒකටත් ලකුණු 5ක් දෙනවා. මම ගෙන්නනවනේ දැන් physical වල. අන්න මම කියනවා ලියාගෙන තියෙනවද? නැද්ද? පොරාට ඉඳලාද? attendance ගන්න ඉඳලාද? මම මේනකන් ඉන්නේ ඔයාලා. Okay, let's start. I hope you're all back. So then we'll start the other research strategies, case studies. Right? Case studies. What do you mean by a case study? I hope you all have the experience in the case studies. For the some of subjects, you are having the case studies at the exams also. Meanwhile, when you are doing studies, so when you are writing down the answers, you face some case studies. What do you mean by a case study? You will be given a case. So then, based on the case, I'm discussing about the syllabus content, syllabus case studies. So then, based on the case, so there may be some questions. Right? Questions. You have to first read the case study. It may be a hypothetical case study sometimes. So in the if there are some practical case studies, actual world case studies also. Right? So then how you can analyze it? So you at the class, what you are doing is you are going through the first question. So then with having an idea regarding the questions of the given case study, you are reading the case. So then definitely you may be able to identify the answers for the case. So if you want to become a chartered accountant or whatever the SIMA accountant and the whatever the accountant, management accountant, definitely you may have the case study. Case studies there. So how they are doing the case study. So they are previously issued the part of the case study, 50% of the case study will be published to the applicant, and then remaining 50% will be given at their interviews or else at their examinations. So anyway, so what do you mean by a case study approach in the research, right? Especially in the qualitative research, right? In the qualitative research as a strategy, right? As a strategy, you can use the case studies, right? For example, if you want to analyze the perception of management accountants in the manufacturing industry. Perception. We are going to have an idea or else do a research on the perception of the management accountants on their modern management practices. Perception of the management accountants on the modern management practices. How they perceive it, what they think about the modern management concept, right? So then to conduct this research, what you can do is you can select the manufacturing industry, right? Most probably the management accountants are acting in the manufacturing industry. So then you have selected the ACL cables, right? ACL cables as the manufacturing company. So then in this ACL company, so you are taking the perception of 10 management accountants, right? 10 management accountants is the sample. So then what you can do is you are going to ask in the question from that 10 management accountants. So you can inquire about their perception regarding the modern management practices. What it is, it's a case study. It's a case study. The other example, right? So if you want to analyze the financial stability of the Sri Lanka, what you can do is you can analyze the recent collapse in the financial institutes, right? You are going to analyze the performance of the financial institutes or is the stability of financial institute in Sri Lanka. So then you can take the case studies. So what are the cases? ETI. What happened to the ETI? What happened to the ETI? So they are the bankrupt. So then the finance bankrupt. So then what else? It started with the selling life. Right? So likewise, so you may be having the chance to identify the stability of the financial organization in Sri Lanka by analyzing those three cases. Right? What are the factors? What are the factors which leads to the instability of this financial organization? So why these companies why these companies dissolve their organization? So what are the factors affecting for the instability of the financial institute in Sri Lanka? You have the chance to analyze those things with the case studies, So therefore, case study focus on collecting information about specific object, event or activity such as particular business unit or the organization, right? Okay. It's also one strategy that we are using in the qualitative research to collect the data, right? So we are going to use the data from a particular business or is the organization. A case study. Good approach in the qualitative. Most probably in Sri Lankan context, a lot of researchers who are initiating their research with the qualitative approach, they are going in the case studies. Right. The next one, grounded theory. Right, grounded theory. What do you mean by the grounded theory? What do you mean by a ground flow in the sense? What do you mean by the ground? Yes, initiation. Initiation. Grounded theory is a systematic set of procedures to develop an inductively derived theory from the data. Normally, to develop the theories, right? Develop the theories, we are using the grounded theory. You have to start. So nowadays, the most famous theory for the accounting is actor network theory. Alright, so actor network theory, which is most probably used by the Colombo University accounting lecturers, accounting researchers. So they are really concerned on it. So then, how this has been developed with the grounded theory, not only the actor network theory, so but also the other research theory, stakeholder theory, right? Stakeholder theory, agency theory, how those researches have been developed. So with the grounded theory, from the bottom onwards, you are going to collect the data, right? You are going to collect the data. It's an important tool. The important tool of the grounded theory are theoretical sampling, coding, constant comparison. So moving towards the development of theory, so we are තමයි ඉතින් කවුරු අප්පච්චි කෙනෙක්ද කොහෙද කතා කරන්නේ. ඒ බබාගේ දුක ගැන තමයි කියන්නේ. රෑ 6ටලු වෙන්නේ උදේ 4ට නෑ. උදේ 6ටලු යන්නේ රෑ 4ටලු වෙන්නේ. ඉතින් තමන්ගේ දරුවෙක් ගැන තමයි ඉතින් කතා කරන්නේ. තමයි දෙමාපියෝ. හරි. Okay. In a constant comparison, neither. The confirming cases play an important role in the rendering the categories and the grounded theory, right? So what do you mean by a grounded theory? So grounded theory is an initiation for a new research theory, right? So we are using that strategy, especially in the, not the quantitative research, but the qualitative research, right? Qualitative researchers are using this grounded theory. Right. Especially in the inductive process, we are highly concerned on the grounded theory. Right. So the action research. The next one, action research. So what it is? It's a sometime undertaken by the consultants who want to initiate a change process in the organization. Right? Or it is the action research is a research strategy aim at effecting planned changes. Or else if you want to, or else if the consultants, if the professional want to identify the if the consultant want to answer for the specific problem, right? Find the answer, so find the solution for a specific problem, find the new solution, right? So what they can do is, so they can initiate the action research. An example, a lot of theories or a lot of findings confirm that with the initiation of the rewards, financial reward, the employee satisfaction will be increased. Right? Employee satisfaction is based on the high financial rewards. Even it has been confirmed by a lot of theories. Now you are applying it. Let's take MAS. MAS giving the high financial benefits, but their customers are not satisfied. Right? The factory employees are not satisfied with the financial services, financial benefits provided to them. That means salary, high salary, salary increasement, bonus, even we are providing them the bonus, so they are not satisfied. Right? So the management, HR manager of the MAS, he want to know, he has a problem. So then what he can do is, if he is actually concerned or else he got to know that, okay, not the case, but the financial rewards are not only impacting, the financial services are not impacting for their satisfaction, but based on the observation, he got to know that, so employees are really liking the non-financial rewards also. So what are the non-financial rewards? Providing certificates for the best performer, appreciation, recognition, identifying the excellent performer to the year, then the facilities, trips, arranging trips, get-togethers. So those are the some of the non-financial benefits that you can provide as the finance manager to your employees. So then now it is really questionable. Even we are giving the financial benefits, they are not satisfied. So then can we apply the non-financial benefits and have the idea regarding their satisfaction level? So then he conducted the research. He has a specific problem. So he has a project problem. So then what he can do is he conducted the research on the non-financial benefits. He take one plant and then one plant divided into two sectors, and some of the employees are giving the high salaries, high bonus, and observing their satisfaction. Meanwhile, so the some not salary increasement, not financial benefit, but providing the non-financial benefits and observing their satisfaction, employee satisfaction. Two extremes, two cases. So then he observed that he has a problem. What's the problem is, so even we are giving the financial benefits, employees are not satisfied. So then what he did was he conducted the action research. He practically divide the plant into two, and then one of them are giving the financial benefit, whereas the others are getting the non-financial benefits. So what it is? It's action research. The consultant who wants to initiate a change process in the organization. Action research, right? Okay, so this is again can conducted the practical context, both management, the qualitative research as well as the quantitative research, so they can initiate the action research, right? Okay. So these are the some of strategies that you can conduct to your conduct based on the type of words, based on your choice of your research, right? So you have the research philosophy, either positivism or else interpretivism. So then you have the approaches, two approaches, deductive and the inductive. Right? Once you selected your philosophy with the approach, the next task is you need to select the strategy. Right? If you are going with the qualitative research, you have the ethnography, you have case studies, you have grounded theory, And then if you have the quantitative perspective with the deductive approach, you can go with the experiments, plus especially for the management perspective, management problem, management research, you can deal with the surveys. Both quantitative and qualitative can be addressed through the action research. Right. Okay. Next one. The extent of the researcher interference with the study. Right. The extent of the researcher interference with the study. Next, what do you mean by the extent of the researcher's interference? Right. So that means how much the respective researcher is going to concern on their research. Right. So researcher has a direct bearing on whether the study undertaken is correlational or casual. Right, based on the extent of the researchers interference with the study, so we can identify correlational studies as well as the casual studies. Right, so okay, what do you mean by a correlational study? Right, correlation, what do you mean by a correlation? Yes, you all have the idea regarding correlation, statistics. Neither. What do you mean by the correlation? Or else in the business finance also you had the correlation. Correlation coefficient, which we are measuring in the risk and return. What do you mean by correlation coefficient or else correlation? Yes? The relationship between two variables. Neither. You can identify the relationship between two variables by identify the correlation. So is the correlational study is the conducted in natural environment, right? But here the technical term is little bit different in this area, right? So then what do you mean by the correlational study is conducted? This kind of studies will be conducted in natural environment with the minimum interference by the researcher with the normal flow of event. That means this researcher is not going to change the environment of this research. We are not going to manipulate, we are not going to manipulate the natural environment in this kind of a research. If we are not going to manipulate the environment, the researcher's interference, the researcher's engagement is minimal, very low. We are just conducting the research in a normal environment, in the natural environment. If we are not going to change the environment, and meanwhile, if we are conducting the research in the natural environment, researcher is not want to change the environment. So therefore, it's a minimal interference, right? So correlational studies are conducted in the natural environment, and accordingly, the researcher's interference is very low. But yes, casual and effect relationship. Casual relationship. The researchers try to manipulate the certain variables to study the effect of such manipulation on the dependent variable of interest. Right? That means what we are going to do, if it is a casual and effect relationship, what the researcher is going to do? Researcher is going to manipulate the environment, manipulate the certain variables. An example in the experiments. In the experiments, what we are doing? So we are going to manipulate some of the variables. We are going to manipulate. If you want to have an idea, in our example, in our hypothetical example, grass. Right? So then, if we want to identify the color of this glass, what happened? You are going to manipulate the environment, right? So for the one segment, you are providing the air. Ne? Meanwhile, the other segment, you are going to avoid the sunlight. So the other segment, so then what you are going to do? You are going to change the water or else air, the component, third component. So then by changing this water, air and the sunlight, you are going to you are going to observe the changes in the other variable, in the color of the grass. So therefore, so what it's, so your interference is high. As a researcher, you are actively engaged in that environment. You are going to change it. You are going to change the environment. So then what kind of a study that you are going to do? You are going to do a cause and effect relationship. You are going to identify the cause and effect relationship. That means casual study. Therefore, the thing is, if you are going to, as a researcher, if your interference is very low, you are dealing with the natural environment and it leads to the correlational study. But if the interference is high, you are dealing not with the natural environment but with the artificial environment. You are going to create the environment. So that kind of a relation, that kind of things leads to the study of the casual studies, or else initiation of the casual studies. Right. Next one. With inline to the research interference, right? Study setting, right? Study setting. Okay. What do you mean by study setting? Yes, study setting. Yes. Any idea? Yes, any idea? Study setting. No idea. Yes. Right. So what do you mean by the study setting? Yes. Business research can be done in the natural environment where the event proceed normally, right? So we are calling it as a non-contrived setting, right? So if we are going to not change the environment, if we are going to conduct the research in the natural environment, it's a non-contrived setting, right? So that means in artificial. So sometimes you have the contrived settings, right? So then explanatory and the descriptive studies, or as we are calling them as a correlational studies, are conducted in which kind of the areas? Non-contrived settings. Non-contrived settings. Whereas the experiments are done in where? Experiments are conducted to confirm whether there is a causal and the effect relationship. If it is causal relationship, what you are going to do? So you are going to do a lab experiment. If it is so, what is your environment? It's a contrived environment. Right? It's a contrived environment. So therefore, if we are going to identify the causal relationship, casual relationship, definitely you need to change the environment. So therefore, interference is high. That kind of the study setting, we are call it as a contrived environment. We control it, right? We control it. So then, the other way around, if you are going to identify the correlation, if you are going to conduct the correlational study in the sense, your study will be conducted without changing the environment. You are conducting your research in the natural environment. If you want to collect the data regarding customer satisfaction, you are not going to change the dependent and independent variable. You just go to the industry, natural environment and have the idea, right? So natural environment. So therefore, you are not going to, as a researcher, you are not going to change the environment. You are not going to change the environment. You are conducting your research in the natural environment. So if it is so, your study may be a correlational study. Correlational study, your interference is very low, minimal. So then we are calling it as a non-contrived setting. We are not going to control the environment. Just in the natural environment, we are going to conduct it, right? So in the grass case, what happen if we are going to in the labs? If you want to identify the cause and effect relationship, we use three indicators, air, water, and the sunlight. And by changing those things, what we done? We identified, so is there any change in the color of the grass? So then it's a cause-effect relationship. Your interference is very high. So that kind of things we are calling as a contrived environment. Contrived environment. We control the environment. But whereas if you want to collect the data regarding customer satisfaction, are we going to change the environment? No, we are going to conduct the research in the natural environment. So as a researcher, your interference in the environment is minimal. So then we are calling, and we are not going to control it. We are not going to control the environment. So we are calling it as the study setting is non-contrived and it's a correlational study. Correlational study. Right. The next one. Right. We have identified three things. Research strategy, light blue. So then the next one, extent of the researcher's interference with the study setting. The next one, research choice. What is your research choice? You have the two methods, right? So you can conduct either quantitative research or else qualitative research. Unfortunately or fortunately, we are restricting you to do a quantitative research as an undergraduate. Right? As undergraduate, we are asking you to do a quantitative research, not the qualitative research. So then, when you are doing a research, you have the choice, right? So you have the research choice. If you are conducting a research with the qualitative way or with the entirely quantitative way, right? So you have the two choices. Either my research will be conducted through the quantitative way or else qualitative way. So those are your two choices, right? Two choices. Out of these two choices, you can select a one, right? You can select a one. So then that means either quantitative entirely and either qualitative entirely. We are calling that as a mono method, right? Finding the answers for your research questions based on one research design will be identified as a mono method. Only one method. If you have three questions will be answered by one research design. One research design. You are going to answer for three questions or as all the question of your research with the one design, one research design. It may be either quantitative or qualitative. We are calling it as a mono method. Mono method. right? The next one, right? Mix method. Mix method. What do you mean by the mix method? So if let's assume you have the two research objectives. Two research objectives. When you are achieving the first research objective, your research design is a quantitative approach, whereas when you are answering for the second research questions or as research objective, the method is qualitative. Right? First objective, quantitative. Second objective, qualitative. You mix two research design. We are calling it as a mix method. Mix method, right? Mono method, all the questions, all the objectives will be answered through a one research design. Mix method, you are going to answer all the questions, all the objectives, provided the answers for all the objectives with the combination of two research designs. Two research design. Third one, multi-method. Multi-method. So multi-method in the sense using different research design for the question wise, right? An example for answering the first question, you can use sometime quantitative and the qualitative research design. Meanwhile, second research objective, it's entirely qualitative. Again, the third research objective, entirely quantitative. Likewise, you are mixing more research designs based on the questions. We are calling it as a multi-method. Mono method, one. Mix method, combining two. Multi-method in the sense combining two or more than two research design based on the objectives. We can mention it as a multi-method. Multi-method research choice. Your research choice may be either mono, mix, or else multi-method. But, right? So if you conduct the research with the mixed method or as multi-method as a beginner, so then you will be very confused. You will be very confused. So therefore, we are asking, right? Or else we are emphasizing you to select the mono method. If you're going to answer for the three questions, if you have three research questions, three objectives, select one research design to provide all the answers for these three questions, right? Out of that one also, we are asking you to develop or select the quantitative research design to provide the answers for the research questions, or as to fulfill the research objective. You use the quantitative research design, which is determined or else which is classified under the mono method. Mono method, right? I hope it's clear to you. We have the two designs, quantitative, qualitative. Your choice may be mono, mix, or multi-method. Mono in the sense selecting a one research design. Mix method in the sense combining quantitative plus qualitative research design. Multi-methods in the sense combining two or more research designs for the objective wise. Normally for the undergraduate level, we are taking the mono method, whereas for the PhD levels, we are taking mixed method as well as the multi-method. The next one, time horizon. Right, time horizon, definitely you will be getting a more idea when it's come to the data analysis techniques. For the moment, we'll identify the time horizon or time period for your research study. Time period for your research study. So how many months that I'm going to use to collect my data, right? For which kind of period that I'm going to use to collect my data, to analyze the data, how many years I will take, right? To analyze the data. Am I going to collect the data from the 2 months period? What kind of a data it is? Is it a primary data? If it is a secondary data, Likewise. So then, time horizon. Your research time. Your research time. කොච්චර කාලයක්ද කියන එක අපි බලන්න ඕනේ. මගේ රිසර්ච් එක මම කරන්නේ කොච්චර කාලයකටද? මාස 6යි දෙන්නේ නම් ඊට වැඩි කාලයක් කරන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඊට වැඩි කාලයක් කරන කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවා. අවුරුදු 2ක් විතර කරන කට්ටියක් ඉන්නවා. ඒක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ. අපි දෙන්නේ මාස 6. ඔයාලට කැමති ගාණක් කරගෙන කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක නෙමෙයි මේ කියන්නේ data collect කරන period එක කොච්චරද කියන එකයි අපි time horizon එකකින් identify කරගන්නේ. Right. Okay. Time horizon again, if you are dealing with the primary data, right? If you are wish to collect the primary data, right? So primary data in the sense you are taking the what kind of a data? You are going to collect the data from the first source. It's not a published source. The first time you are going to collect the data, right? If you are going to collect the data for the first time, right? First time. So can you spend more time period to collect this kind of a data? No. Why? So for example, if you want to have the idea regarding customer satisfaction, you want to have idea regarding customer satisfaction. So then, can you take 2 years period to collect the customer satisfaction? No, you can't. Why? The first respondent, they provided the answers at the 1st of January 2024, but you have taken 1 year period to collect the data. 1 year period to collect the data. But at the end of the data collection, let's assume we had the 100 respondents, right? So the 100 respondent provided the answer at the 31st December 2024. So then what happened? If you ask the same question from the respondent that answer in the 1st of January 2024, at the next year period, what happened? His answers may be differ. Right? Previously, he's unsatisfied, but the time passed, what happened? His answer become highly satisfied. That means if you are going to collect the primary data, you can't spend more than 1 year period to collect the data. Why? So that data may be changed. Therefore, the study can be undertaken in which data are gathered just once, perhaps over the period of days or weeks or months in the order to answer the research question. Such studies are called one-shot or cross-sectional studies. If you get the time period to collect the data, to especially collect the primary data, less than 1 year period, right? Especially days, weeks, months, not more than actually 6 months. අපි ඇත්තටම මාස 6කටත් වැඩි ගන්නේ නැහැ collect කරන්න data. Why? The answers may be changed. With the time pass, the answers may be changed. So therefore, we know if we are collecting the primary data less than 1 year period during the days, during the weeks, or else number of months. So we are calling it as a cross-sectional studies. Ne? අපි ගොඩාක් මිනිස්සුන්ගෙන් එක ටයිම් ස්පොට් එකකදී data ගන්නවා. weeks data ගන්නවා ගොඩාක් customers ලගේ. එක week එකක් ඇතුළත customers ලා 100 දෙනෙක්ගෙන් data ගන්න. එතකොට හිතා උදාහරණ for example, you just initiated the mobile banking concept, right? Before 5 years, 6 years back, the banks initiated the mobile banking concept. So then once they initiated that one, just initiated, but they can do, so they can give the weekly period. So within that week period, that means 7 days, so they can observe the customer satisfaction of these customer satisfaction on the mobile banking apps. So then what happened? It's called as the cross-sectional studies, or else you are dealing with the cross-sectional data set. So I hope you all know. So there are 4 data sets. So what those are? Cross-sectional data set, panel data set, pool data set, and the time series data. Right? Time series data, pool data, panel data, and the cross-sectional data. So these are the 4 types of data. Okay, unfortunately, I don't have time to show those things. Anyway, when it's come to the analysis lessons, I will definitely show those things, the data sets, and I will give the data sets to you. So the next one. If you are getting the time period to collect the data more than 1 year period, or else more than one point in a time in order to answer the research questions, we are calling it as a longitudinal studies, right? Longitudinal studies. So then what do you mean by the longitudinal studies? If you are dealing with the secondary data, right? If you are dealing with the secondary data, so what you can do is you can collect the annual report data, right? So annual report data, are the annual report data is going to be changed? No. Especially no. For example, the financial performance of the commercial bank in 2020. Is it going, if you refer it in 2020, it is 1 million. If you refer it today, it's 1 million. It's a fixed data. Right? It's not going to be changed. In the extreme cases, there may be changes. But normally, once they declared it, they are not going to change it. Over of time period, if you are using the secondary data, right, more than 1 year period, you can name your study as the longitudinal study. Especially those who are using the financial performance. So they need to take the 5 years period. They need to take the 5 years period, 3 years period to analyze the data. Otherwise, they can't observe the pattern. If you collect the data for, let's assume your research topic is dividend policy and firm financial performance, right? So how do you need to collect the data? At least you need to take the 5 years period, right? 2022, 2021, 2023, 2024. Likewise, you need to take the data for more than 1 year period. So otherwise you can't rationalize, you can't run the analysis, right? So we are calling it as a, if you are collecting the secondary data more than 1 year period, we are calling it as a longitudinal studies. Other than these two, we have the time series analysis also, right? So what do you mean by the time series analysis? Time series studies. So if we are going to identify the trends, patterns of the economic concepts, over a time period, how these respective variables have been changed will be explained to the time series analysis. For example, Sri Lankan GDP, right? So for 15 years period, how the Sri Lankan GDP has been changed. Number of years, throughout this number of years, you are going to observe one data and one day, the facts that the one data, it is GDP. So likewise, inflation rate, how the inflation rate has been changed during the 20 years, what it's a time series analysis, right? So likewise, especially we are using the cross-sectional studies as well as the longitudinal studies for your studies, management disciplines. But other than that one, so there are some other studies also, time series analysis and likewise, right? ඔයාලා අවුරුද්දකට වඩා අඩු කාලයක් ගන්නවා නම් ඔයාගේ රිසර්ච් එකේ data collect කරන්න ඔයාගේ study එක name කරන්න පුළුවන් cross sectional study එකක් කියලා. Your time horizon may be cross sectional. Right? හැබැයි ඔයා අවුරුද්දකට වඩා වැඩි කාලයක් ගන්නවා නම් research එක conduct කරන්න නෙමෙයි research එකේ data collect කරන්න. අවුරුද්දකට වඩා වැඩි කාලයක් තුල ඔයාගේ research එකේ data collect කරලා තියෙනවා පෙන්නනවා නම් අපි කියනවා එකට longitudinal study එකක් කියලා. The time horizon will be the longitudinal. Right? Longitudinal time horizon is there and the cross-sectional time horizon also there. Other than that one, there are some other studies, but we are not going to refer those things since it is not actually relevant for us. Example is time series analysis also there. Right. Very much important. Right? We have 5 minutes. So then unit of analysis. Unit of analysis. So once you identify the what kind of analysis, what kind of a data, what kind of a time period that I'm going to use for to collect my data. So next task is you need to identify the unit of analysis, right? So unit of analysis refers to the level of aggregation of data collected during the subsequent data analysis stage. So then how you can identify the unit of analysis? First, you need to identify the problem statement. Yes. What? So what is my problem? Right? So once you identify the problem of your research, the next task, you develop the questions. You develop the objectives. Now you identify the positivism philosophy and the approaches and the time horizon and likewise. So then you have to identify from whom I'm going to collect the data for my research. Who is my target group, right? Who is from whom, right? From whom I should collect the data. To answer for my question, who is the most suitable person or organization that provide the proper answers for my questions will be identified as the unit of analysis. The unit that you are going to analyze to have a proper idea on your research questions, right? So then the next task is then we are interested in the individual employees. What is your problem? How to raise the motivational levels of employees in general. How you can increase the motivation, right? So then if it is motivation, from whom you are going to collect the data, or else from whom, or else who will be provided the most reliable answers? Employees, right? Employees are the persons who provided the actual answers regarding, or else proper answers regarding the motivational. Otherwise, if you refer the annual reports, if you refer the financial reports, if you refer the ROA, if you refer the the total assets, if you refer the total liabilities, if you refer the cash inflows, cash outflows, can you have an idea regarding employee motivation? No. Right? You can't have idea regarding the employee motivation from the statistical data, from the secondary data. So therefore, your best example, the persons who are providing the real answers to your problem is individual employees. The proper answers can be grabbed to the individual employees. So then your unit of analysis is the individual employees, right? Individual. So therefore, individual employee is your unit of analysis, or as individual, right? Sometime, if the thing is, if you are going to collect the data, primary data in the sense, the initial data that you are collecting from the respondents, right? If it is a primary data, definitely you are concerned with the individuals. ප්‍රයිමරි ඩේටා කියලා කියන්නේ පළවෙනියටම ගන්න ඩේටා ටික. ඉස්සෙල්ලාම ගන්න ඩේටා ටික. ඒතර අපිට කෙනෙක්ගෙන් ඉස්සෙල්ලාම ඩිරෙක්ට් ආන්සර් එකක් ගන්න ඕන නම් අපිට සෙකන්ඩරිට රිෆර් කරලා හරියනවද නැහැ. අපි රිෆර් කරන්නේ ප්‍රයිමරි ඩේටා. ප්‍රයිමරි ඩේටා ගන්න පුළුවන් කාගෙන්ද? අපිට ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල්ස්ලා. The first impression can be grabbed to the individuals. So therefore, if you are collecting the primary data, your unit of analysis may be the individuals. It may be the managers, it may be the taxpayers, it may be the students, it may be the undergraduates, it may be the government employees, it may be the chartered accountants, it may be the SME owners, it may be the other management accountants. If you are going to identify the data you are going to do a research on the data analytics, AI. So then how you can deal? So you have to go to the IT managers. So then IT managers, the CEO, CFOs. So those are the individuals that you can gain the primary data. So therefore, What will be your unit of analysis? Individual is your unit of analysis, right? Meanwhile, if you are conducting a secondary data, if you are collecting a secondary data, can the unit of analysis become the individual? No, right? So if you are going to collect the secondary data, what are the secondary data? Annual report data, ROA, ROE, Tobin's Q, some of measurements, some of the scales, some of the formulas may be there. Some of ratings are there. Sustainability, if you are conducting the sustainability, so there may be sustainability scores, right? So can we collect those kind of things from the individuals? No. The actual second data may be calculated from the annual report. So then we are calling it as so then unit of analysis become the organizations. If you are going to collect the second data, your unit of analysis may be the organizations. So therefore, you have to, if you are going to collect the secondary data from the companies, definitely the unit of analysis may be the organizations. And if you are going to collect the primary data, especially your unit of analysis may be the individual. Sometimes it may be the group of people anyway, and the cultures also, right? Unit of analysis. කාගෙන්ද අපි මේ data collect කරන්න ඕනේ කියන එක බලන්න. අපිට හරියටම අපේ question එකට answers දෙන්න පුළුවන් කෙනා කවුද? Unit of analysis really important to the next sessions also. In the sample, when we are selecting the sample, unit of analysis is very much important. Right? So why? Based on the unit of analysis, your population is determined. The persons who are including in the total of persons who, the total unit of analysis will be identified as your population. So therefore, please identify your unit of analysis. Your unit of analysis, if you are unable to identify the study settings, the strategies and other philosophies, or else the approaches properly, at least try to identify what regarding my research topic, who is the responsible persons to collect the data, or is from whom I can collect the reliable data, which is identified under the last concept, the unit of analysis. Very much important. Right. Do you have any questions? Okay. We reached to the end of the lecture. So then any questions? If you have any questions, you can raise now. I hope you already uploaded the portfolio activity number 2. Sorry, not 2, 3. I'm going to evaluate it.
Excuse me miss, ඒකේ deadline කීයටද?
අදනේ තිබ්බේ.
අද රෑ 12ට තියෙන්නේ.
අද 3ට තිබ්බේ.
හරි මිස්.
සබ්මිට් කරේ නැද්ද?
නෑ මිස් අර මගේ මේ පරණ ඒවත් ටිකක් හදන්න වගේ තිබ්බේ ඒ ටිකත් හැදුවා තාම අරක අප්ලෝඩ් කරේ නෑ මිස්.
මම මේ බදාදා වෙනකොට අප්ලෝඩ් ඉවලුවේට් කරනවා.
හරි
හොඳද?
හරි.
හැමෝටම මම මේ කියන්නේ. එතකොට මම බදාදට ඉවලුවේට් කරන්න ගන්නවා. බදාද දවසම ඉවලුවේට් කරනවා. බදාදයින් පස්සේ මම ඉවලුවේට් කරන්නේ නැත. And I don't know the submissions. I don't know how many submissions. නිකන් බලන්න එකපාරට විනාඩියක් අරගෙන. Okay, so there is a third one. Okay, portfolio activity number 3. Okay. Out of 127, 57 students submitted the portfolio activity number 3. Right? If you have any concerns, if you have any time limitations, barriers, so today is deadline, no? So then at least try to upload your document portfolio activity number 3 before Wednesday. before Wednesday. That means I'm going to evaluate it on Wednesday. No, not Wednesday. Lectures. Thursday. I will evaluate it on Thursday. So then you have 3 days, right? You have 3 days. Those who didn't upload it, or else those who identified, so there are some mistakes, so there are amendments in my research, literature review. So you can correct those things and upload it until the midnight of Wednesday, right? So after the Wednesday, I'm not going to evaluate you. Don't disturb to me, right? So, and meanwhile, I'm granting you the marks also, right? I'm granting you marks after 2 weeks. So this, I hope this is our 10th week. So then most probably after the 11th week, I'm taking the physical lectures. So then I will start with the presentations. So ready for your presentations. I hope I didn't upload the presentation structures. Anyway, this is the idea. You need to present your research proposal first. So then we are evaluating your proposals. Even there are 120 students. I will take the Yes, Aditya, I will take your presentations, right? Without any barriers, I will take your presentations. මමගේ ඩ්‍රැග් දවාලක් නැතුව හරි කරන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. මම presentations අරගෙන තමයි submissions ගන්නේ. මම එහෙම තමයි
Excuse me,
ගත්තේ.
madam.
Yes.
Madam, final presentation එක final research proposal එකත් අපි දැන් අද ලියපු literature review එකකට තෝරගත්ත topic එකෙන් ඉදිරි නැත්නම් අපිට topic එක ඕනනම් වෙනස් කරගන්න පුළුවන්ද පස්සේ?
දැන් පුතා ඔයාලා develop වෙවිනේ යන්නේ. ඔයාලා ගොඩාක් දුරට develop වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ගොඩාක් compounds ඔයාලා identify කරගෙන තියෙනවා. හැබැයි සමහර concepts තියෙනවා තව identify කරන්න. ඔයා තවත් පරක් වුණා. දැන් මම කොහොමත් 11 12 තමයි presentations ගන්න පටන් ගන්නෙ. එතකොට ඔයාලට එදා වෙනකනුත් තියෙනවා වෙනස්කම් කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් වෙනස්කම් කරන්න. ඒක මට කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. හරිද? දැන් ඔයා literature review එක ලියනකොට identify කරගත්තා නම් මට මේක කරගෙන යන්න බෑ මට මේකේ research similar findings නැහැ කියලා එතනින් අතාරින්න යාව. තියාගෙන ඉන්න බෑ. හැබැයි ඊළඟට ගන්න topic එක ගන්නකොට කලින් හදපු questions objectives හදලා literature review එකට එන්න. ඉගෙන ගන්න lesson එකෙන් lesson එකට identify කරගන්න new concept එකෙන් concept එකට ඔයාව develop කරන්න. දැන් මම last week quality කියලා දුන්නා mediated impact moderated impact. ඔයාලට ඒ ගැන හරි අවබෝධයක් ආව නම් ඔයාලා කැමති නම් කරන්න ඔයාලට ඒක variable එක include කරන්න. හැබැයි ඔයා හිතනවා නම් ඔයාගේ research topic එකට ඒ variable එක ගැලපෙන්නේ නැහැ මම ආසයි mediated research එකක් කරන්න moderate variable එකක් include කරන්න. හැබැයි මම කරන්න මට බැහැ මම කලින් හදපු topics වල ඒවා නැහැ කියලා එතනින් නතර වෙන්න එපා. ඔයාට ඕන නම් ඔයා variable එකක් include කරලා ගැලපෙන research topic එක වෙනස් කරලා portfolio activity එක එතන නම් කරගෙන යන්න. මම ඔයාගේ පළවෙනියටම කරන්න ඕනේ කියප එක කරන්න කියන්නේ නැහැ කවදාවත්. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ අපිට. මම ඩිවෙලොප් කරන එක තමයි ඔයාලව කරන්නේ. එතකොට ඔයාලා වෙනස් කර යන්න. මට ඒකේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. හැබැයි ෆ්ලෝ එකට එන්න. වෙනස් කරා කියලා එතන ඉඳන් ලිටරචර් එක ලියන්න නැතුව වෙනස් කරා නම් එතන ඉඳන් හදාගෙන ඉන්න questions හදාගෙන ඉන්න objectives හදාගෙන ඉන්න questions objectives හදනකොට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම papers කියවලා හදන්න. ඔයාලට හිතන questions objectives එහෙම හදන්න එපා. මම දැන් බලනවා ඊළඟට මොකද්ද කරලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. ඒතකොට එහෙම හදන්න බෑ. ඔයාලා රිසර්ච් එකක් තෝරගන්න. අනිත් එක තමයි ඔයාලා දැන් download කරගන්න. මෙතන there are 46 students. I can't do anything. So you need to find a base paper for your research. ළඟින්වත් යන ඔයාගේ topic එකට ගැලපෙන research එකක් හොයාගන්න දැන්. හොඳ paper එකක්. මම ඔයාලට කියලා දුන්නා මං හිතන්නේ quality papers තෝරගන්න විදිහ, journals හොයාගන්න විදිහ, හොඳ journal එකකින් quality paper එකක් ඔයාගේ study එකට similar finding එකක් හොයාගන්න. මම ඔයාලට comments දුන්නාට පස්සේ Excel sheet එකක් දෙනවා. ඒකේ research topics ටික include කරන්න ඕනේ. එක්කෙනෙක් කරන research topic එක තව කෙනෙක් කරන්න බෑ. ඒතර එකම ළමයාට රිසර්ච් ටොපික් ළමයි දෙන්නෙකුට එකම රිසර්ච් ටොපික් එක කරන්න බෑ. at least you need to change the industry also. ඒ නිසා මම දෙනවා ඔයාලට ලිස්ට් එක මම අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා මම කෝඩිනේටර්ස්ලාට ෂෙයා කරන්නම්. මම ගාව කොහමද 16 emoji ඒ බැච් එකේ කෝඩිනේටර් එක නම්බර් එක නම් නැහැ අනිත් දෙන්නගෙම තියෙනවා. එතකොට මම කෝඩිනේට් ෂෙයා කරන්නම් ෆිල් කරන්න පටන් ගන්න කියලා. එතකොට ඔයාලා කොහොමද ටච් එකේ ඉන්න තර්ස්ඩේ වගේ වෙනකොට මම Google ෆෝම් එකක් දානවා ඒක ෆිල් කරන්න. එතකොට අනිත් අයටත් පේනවනේ මේ රිසර්ච් එක මෙයා කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඔයාලා ප්‍රශ්න ටික විසඳගෙන මම ඔයාගේ රිසර්ච් එක කරන්නේ. මට කියන්න බෑ. මට කියන්න බෑ ඔයා මේක කරන්න ඔයා කරන්න තෝ මෙයාට දෙන්න කියන එක මට කියන්න බෑ. හැබැයි දෙන්නගෙන් එක්කෙනෙකුට කරන්න දෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්නම් මම අහක බලාගෙන කපලා දාන එක තමයි කරන්නේ. You have the batch fit no. නේද? කතා කරලා ඉස්ස ගන්න පුළුවන් නේ අපිට. ඒ නිසා දැන් තාමත් ඔයා පරක්කු නැහැ. අවසාන ස්ටේජ් එකට එනකන් ඉන්නේ නැහැ. මම ලිටරචර් එක ඩිවෙලොප් කරාට පස්සේ ඒක බැලුවට පස්සේ මම ඔයාලට කමෙන්ට්ස් මම ඔයාලගේ ෂීට් එක ෂෙයා කරනවා. එතකොට ඒක ඉන්ක්ලූඩ් කරන්න. ඒත් එක්ක මේක ගැන ටච් එකේ ඉන්න. අනිත් එක තමයි ඔයාගේ පේපර් එකට ඔයා කරන්න ලිටරචර් එක ලියන පේපර් එකට සිමිලර් පේපර් එකක් හොයාගන්න. ස්ලයිඩ් චේන්ජස් තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි හොඳ පේපර් එකක් at least dependent noise independent variable දෙන්නගෙන් එක්කෙනෙක්වත් තියෙන එකක් හොයාගන්න. මොකද ඔයාලට ඒක රිසර්ච් එක කරනකොට ගයිඩ් එකක්. එයා තමයි ඔයාගේ guided document. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයාට හිතන දේ කරනවා. එහෙම කරන්න බෑ රිසර්ච් වල. All the things are based on the literature. Literature in the sense similar findings. You should back by the literature. ඒ නිසා අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම find a base paper to you. Right? So activity number 5 is, portfolio act number 5 is uploading the base paper to you. So I will give it to you, base paper, uploading the base paper. Yes, once I give you the comments, Friday, you check the LMS on Friday. So then, based on my comments, find the base paper, right? Find the base paper, right? So, okay, any comments, any ideas, any questions?
මැඩම් බේස් පේපර් එක තෝරගන්න මේ අපි තෝරගන්න ආටිකල් එක මොකද පබ්ලිෂ් කරපු එකක් තියෙනවද මොකද අර
නෑ පුතේ නෑ. recent publish කරපු එකක් වෙන්න ඕනේ. recent publish කියලා කියන්නේ දැන් ඔයාලා research එක කරනකොට කවදාද දවසක 2025 නේ. 25 නෙමෙයි 26 නේ. එතකොට 26 research එකක් කරනකොට දැන් ඔයාලා ඉස්සරහ අවුරුද්දට ලෑස්ති වෙනවා නම් 2020 කරන research එකක් හරියනවද නැහැ. නේ? at least 21 22 23 කියන recent area එකකින් research paper එකක් තෝරගන්න. හැබැයි ඒ quality paper එකක් තෝරගන්න pediatric journals නම් select කරගන්න එපා. pediatric journals වල තියෙන research කරන්න බෑ. අන්තිමට ඔයාලා අමාරු වෙනවා. අලුත් topic තියෙනවා හැබැයි කරන්න ගියපම ඇත්තටම කරගන්න බෑ. හොඳ paper එකක් download කරගන්න කියන්නේ ඔයා හොඳ back එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා හරිම ලේසි research එක කරගෙන යන්න. Okay, any questions?
Excuse me, madam.
Yes.
Madam, presentation ගන්න පටන් ගන්න කොයි කාලේ වගේද?
කවද වගේද දැන් මම ගන්න ඕනේ? මම 12 වෙනි week එකේ ඉඳන් ගන්නවා. ඇයි ඒ?
12 වෙනි week එක කියන්නේ කවද වගේද madam?
අද week එකේ 10. ලබන සතියේ නෙමෙයි ඊළඟ සතියේ ඉඳන් presentations ගන්න.
ඒ කියන්නේ 18ද madam?
ඒක හරියටම කියන්න බෑ පුතා 18ද lecture කියන්නේ.
8 19. madam එතකොට එක දවසේ ඔක්කොම presentation ටික ගන්නවද?
නැහැ. මට කැමති හිතනාගේ මම කැමති එක්කෙනාගේ presentations ගන්න.
madam එතකොට මේ presentation physical නේද ගන්නෙ?
ඔව් physical තමයි ගන්න. හැමෝම ඉස්සර ආවිල්ලා present කරන්න. මෙන්න මගේ research topic එක මෙන්න මම literature review හොයාගත්ත එක මේවා තමයි questions මේවා තමයි objectives මෙන්න මේවා තමයි research එක කරන්න ඉතාලගෙන ඉන්න කියලා present කරනවා.
madam මේ මට මේ කියන්නේ personal reason එකක් තියෙනවා. ඇත්තටම මේ ඒ week එකේ එන්න බැරි. මම madam private මේ
හරි මම contact කරන්නකෝ පුතේ.
හරි madam, thank you.
Okay, any questions?
මිස් මේ අපි බැච් එකේ මේ සමහර ළමයි ඉන්නවා අර ටොපික්ස් වලට තාම මේ කමෙන්ට් සම්බුන් නැති. ඒ කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ දෙන්නෙක් තුන්දෙනෙක් විතර ඉන්නවා තාම මේ ඒ කියන්නේ ඒකටත් මේ ඒ කියන්නේ ටොපික් එකත් හරියට මේ කරගන්න නැති කට්ටිය. ඒකට ඒගොල්ලන්ටත් මේ ඒකෙම අප්ලෝඩ් කරන්න කියනද මිස් මේ
මේගොල්ලන්ට කියන්න මොකද්ද ලිටරචර් රිවිව් එක හරියට කරලා අප්ලෝඩ් කරන්න. දැන් ඒගොල්ලෝ නැද්ද මෙතන?
ඒගොල්ලෝ හරියට දන්නේ නැහැ.
ඉතින් නැත්තම් මොකටද ඔයා ඉගෙන කතා කරන්නේ?
මම දෙන්නේ කාලා තිබ්බා ඒකයි.
හ්ම්.
මේ
ඕනේ නැත්තම් ඉතින් ඕනේ නැහැ.
හරි මිස් මේ තෙමඩගේ නම්බර එක නැද්ද මිස්? මේ 16 M
මොකද්ද?
watch එකේ මේ
Sorry.
weekday batch එකේ coordinator එකේ 16 එකේ
ඔව්. ඔව්.
එයා නම්බර එක දුන්නා කියලා කිව්වා මට.
තිමිරගේ නම්බර එක මම සේව්
ඔව්
කර තිමිර නේද? එයා සම්බර එක සේව්
ඔව්
කරාද
ඒ
නැද්ද දන්නේ නැහැ පුතේ.
මන් දාන්නවා මිස්.
හා. ඉතින් මතක දවසක් මෙසේජ් එකක් නම් දාලා තිබ්බා. එයාලා මට හම්බෙලත් නැති නිසා වැඩි කන්ටැක්ට් එකක් නැහැ.
මන් දාන්නවා
අනිත්
මිස්.
දෙන්න නම් තියෙනවා. Any questions? Okay. Right. So there are 45 students. I hope. Okay. Thank you very much for your participation. Have a great evening for that. If you have any question regarding the research topic, at any time you can contact me. If you are unable to reach for me, please text me. Right at any point, once I got the free time, so I will text you. Okay. Thank you very much for your participation.